Hello, guys. This is Miss O'Connor. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss you all very much. So, welcome to your first day of online learning. This is going to be a new adventure for all of us. So, hang in there, do your best. If you have questions, come see me during my live office hour. I'm there from 9 a.m. to 9:40. Also, you still know you have Class Dojo. You can always reach out to me there if you need anything at all. We're also using Google Classroom, so message me through there. Leave a comment. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. So today we are going to go ahead and keep going with where we left off. And I know that most of you were there when we got to look at the cheek cells and the skin cells. Today, we're going to go ahead and keep going with that. We're going to talk about what we saw, identify what all those parts of the cell were. So if you look on the screen right now, our standard that we are working on today is our Life Science Standard 1-1. We're going to conduct an investigation to provide evidence that living things are made of cells, either one cell or many different numbers and types of cells. So luckily, we already actually did do that investigation part, but we are just now going to look at it and talk about it. So today our objective is to describe cells from a multicellular organism. That would be you. You're the multicellular organism. We took the cheek cells and the skin cells from you. And we're going to think more deeply about the role of cells in the body. So on this slide, you see animal cells, cheek cells. So this is like what we did in class. So if you notice, you're going to see a lot of cells here, and this is what we call a group of cells. We have multiple cells here overlapping each other. So just as a reminder, we did actually use the methylene blue, and we dyed those cells so that we could see them. Because if we would have put them on this slide without that, they're just transparent and you wouldn't have really been able to see them very well. So the nice thing about the dye is that different parts of the cells soak up the dye more and they're darker. So you can see these nice dark circles, and that is your nucleus, okay? And then they make a nice little ring too around the cell membrane so that it shows up and we can see where one cell ends and the other one begins. So if you look here, each of these that have a nucleus, that's a separate cell. All of these together, this is a group of cells. All right, so this is a very, not wonderful drawing of cell, but this is a drawing of a cell, just so you can get the basic parts, because I do need you guys to know the basic parts of the cells. So if you forgot to bring your workbook or you don't have a notebook with you, go ahead and pause this video and go grab your notebook, because you're going to need to take down some notes so that you can remember these things, okay? So our outer edge here, this is called the cell membrane, and it's kind of like the door of your cell. So you have a door on your house, and you can let the people you want in, and you can keep the people you don't want out, right? And right now we're keeping everybody out because we are social distancing and we are being safe. But this cell works the same way. It has a door, okay? The cell membrane is designed so that it can let some things in that are supposed to come in and keep other things out that it doesn't want in there. So it also has the job of holding everything together, kind of like the walls of your house. But think of them as walls where things can pass in and out, okay? Whoops. All right, so the next part of the cell I need you to know is the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm is simply just the fluid that is filling up the rest of the space in your cell. All right, so notice it's not pointing at one of those little black dots, because those are something else, but it's just the fluid, okay, that's inside your cell. And the fluid is actually really important, because remember in chemistry we learned that some things dissolve in liquids And when we eat, we get some things that need to get dissolved into our cells. So enzymes and fatty acids and sugars and amino acids, all of these things are absorbed and they are dissolved inside your cells. So that's going to be found in your cytoplasm. And then the last part I want you to know today, we're just keeping it real basic with some basic parts, is the nucleus. And when you looked at those slides, the really big dark circle that was kind of in the middle of your cell is your nucleus. Now, it's not always completely in the middle. It can be off-centered like this one is here. But notice it's not like right on the edge because we need to keep it protected because it is like the brain of the cell. So it's what's controlling everything. Let me move my picture. I haven't really figured out where to keep my picture when I'm talking to you guys. I don't want to cover up this slide. So you aren't going to find it right on the edge because we need to protect it. And that cell is important because it helps control the eating, the movement, and the reproduction of your cell. So please write down nucleus if you haven't. If you need a pause, you can always pause the video if I'm going too fast. So that's a nice feature of this online learning. I don't have to, go at a real slow rate. We can pause if we need to, and then you can keep going. So what about skin cells? Remember we took the tape and we put it on our wrist and we took it off and we put it on the slides. So do you think that the skin cells had all the same parts as the cheek cells? Do they have a cell membrane and a nucleus and cytoplasm? I wish I could hear your guesses, but I can't. So I'm going to keep going. So here is a zoomed in close-up picture of human skin cells. Okay, and so you can notice they do have that dark spot. They do have some cytoplasm going on in there. So yes, they have the same parts, but you do notice they're a little bit different shape, and cells come in a lot of different shapes. So just be aware of that. That's something you need to know. They're not all the same shape, but they do have the same parts. All right, so let's review. When we're talking about the outer rim of our cell, hopefully you have that written down in your notes. What is that outer rim called? It's called the cell membrane. Okay, and this fluid part that's in between in our cells, not the little dots, but just the fluid, that is our cytoplasm. Good. And then this over here, which is usually a dark spot when you're looking at it with a slide that's been dyed, right? This is the nucleus. Yes, so hopefully you have all those written down. If not, go back, rewind, write them down, draw a little picture, label it out. You guys know how to do this. Make yourself a little diagram, okay? All right, so we took samples of cells from our cheek and our skin. Do you think that there are cells in other parts of our bodies? What do you think? Where are there other cells in our bodies? What do you guys think? All right, if you said yes, then you were absolutely correct. All of your body is made of cells. So here's a nice little graphic. He's a little cell man. All right, so this is actually heart tissue. And heart tissue is just composed of a bunch of heart cells. So when we put cells together, that's what makes tissue. We call this tissue in our body. Not the tissue you blow your nose with. This is tissue inside of our body that's made up of cells. And then when tissue joins together, it creates our organ. So our heart is an organ in our body, right? And so it's composed of tissue, and the tissue is composed of cells. And then when we put those organs together, we get systems. Like our heart is part of our circulatory system. So it's going to be pumping our blood through our body. And we're going to talk about all about the systems later, but that's just a little introductory. That's how things build. Cells form together to make tissue, tissues form together to make organs, and then organs work in systems in our body. All right, so here's some key takeaways from our lesson. You should probably take some notes because, yes, you're going to take a little assessment on this in Google Forms, just like in class, but instead of waiting until tomorrow to do it, you're going to go ahead and do it today. All right, so you can now identify what a cell is. I showed you a picture. I hope you could show me where the cell was, the individual cell versus the group of cells, and what its boundaries are when you're looking at a group of cells from a multicellular organism. And yes, you're a multicellular organism. You're made up of multiple cells. In the future, we're going to look at some organisms that are only made up of one cell. But today, multi-cells. So you saw groups of those cells together in your cheeks when you swabbed it out. And you should also understand that different cells make up different parts of the body. So we have cells in our cheek, we have cells on our skin, we have cells in our heart, we have cells in all the parts of our body. And you now know that cells make up parts of the body. Cells have boundaries. Those boundaries are called the cell membrane, right? And cells have different shapes. They don't all look exactly the same. That's why we can kind of tell the difference when we were looking at the cheek cells. They looked a little different than the skin cells, and they looked a lot different than the heart cells, right? So they all have different shapes. So your assignment, you have two things to do, okay? And you need to do these two things in order to get credit for being in school today for your science class. So you're going to do reading 1.1. How do scientists find these tiny cells? It's on pages 5 through 7 in your workbook. And as you start to read, think about this. How do you think these tiny cells that cannot be seen without a microscope were discovered? How did we ever even figure this all out, right? And how long ago do you think cells were found? It was a pretty long time ago, right? So we're going to find out the answers to those questions. Then once you finish your reading, you need to complete the reading on page 5 through 7 and then complete the Google form assignment in your Google Classroom. It is 1.1 Life Science. Again, it's super important that you complete that assignment so you get attendance for today. All right, so do the reading so that you can do well on the assignment. Bring your notes with you as you do it. You're allowed to look at your notes, okay, and do the assignment in Google Classroom. If you have any questions, come and see me. I am available for you. If it's after office hours, then send me a dojo message. Alrighty, talk to you later. Bye.